All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. It is the 5th day of November, day before Election Day. I like to call it Selection Day because, as Karen Tostado says, we're not really electing anybody. We're going to choose who was put before us. Joining us here in just a minute is Kerry Lutz, and this is another gentleman I was introduced to through my friend Chris Atkin at Buy Emergency Foods. Also, Legacy Premium. We'll get into. Into PrepareWise. We'll get into all that here in a little bit. But Carrie is the host of the Financial Survival Network, puts out an absolutely excellent podcast. I'm not even sure on if it's more than a couple times a week, but we're gonna dive into all that with Carrie, talk about his podcast. He's also a lawyer. He's also big in the financial circles. Has a lot of influential friends. We're gonna pick his brain on what this election really means. But I want to start off by prefacing what this election means, and to me, anyway, from what I am sitting back and watching, because I think everybody should be informed. You know, are you informed when you go out tomorrow to make a choice? Are you going to make a choice for the red team or the blue team? Somebody you're gonna elect who's going to either stay the course and sail through all this carnage that we are currently in, or somebody maybe on the other team who's going to flip the script, and we're going to go the way of positive growth and sustainable sustainable economic future. Let's understand where we are, because if we don't know where we are, how can we know if we're going to grow out of this? How can we know if we can trust the mainstream media or Washington D.C. to lead us in a direction that is for the benefit of the people of this country? We need to know where we're at. If we look at unemployment, for an example, in this country, we find that if we use depressionary metrics, we have fallen in the year 2012 risen, I should say, to a higher unemployment rate than in any year of the Depression of the 30s. In 1932, we had a Depression high of 22.9% unemployment. In the year 2012, using the exact same metrics, we come up with 23%. So not only has housing fallen farther than it has during the Great Depression, unemployment has risen higher than it has during the so-called Great Depression. If we look at the kids in this country, the kids that we're shoveling all this debt onto, 18 years and younger, we have you guys out there, you kids listening to us out here, 18 years and younger, if you want to pay off the national debt, $218,676 is your contribution to pay off our national debt. That's increased 50% in the last few years. And of course, Romney wants to blame this on Obama, but it's no more Obama's fault than it is George W. Bush's fault. They're in this together. So if you're 18 years old, you're $218,000 in the hole. You're going to pay $130,000 for a degree at a private college. And then you're going to get to go out and buy a $173,000 overinflated home in the United States of America with our central banking system, meaning you're going to spend $500,000 just to be a good debt slave. This is the condition that the country's in. If we think for one instance tomorrow we're going to get either a new leader that's going to change the direction, or we're going to continue with the same guy we have now who's going to steer us to a sustainable course, we have to understand that we're not living in reality. So who's going to be the winners and who's going to be the losers? Well, if you're in the middle class, I truly believe there's a destination for you, one of two places. It seems it's either going to be very, very poor, or you're going to join the prison industrial complex that's rapidly growing. Think I'm being grandiose here with my prediction. You know, I posted a video yesterday of a lady in Idaho Springs, Colorado, delinquent on her mortgage, lived in there for years, disabled, had the literal SWAT show up to her house to evict her on behest of a too-big-to-fail institution. This is where we live. If for one moment we don't think that we can go the way of Zimbabwe, Argentina, Greece, Italy, any nation whose hubris has led it to fall over that fiscal cliff, we need to wake up and realize the truth. All right, let's bring on our guest tonight. Night before election, Kerry Lutz. Welcome to the program, my friend. Financial Survival Network is your website. Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Well, sure, Charlie. Hey, thanks so much for having me on, especially the night before Election Day. But basically, what I do, I'm an attorney by training. Fortunately, I got so good at it and no longer had to practice. And, I got into this because I saw what was happening to the country. I saw that your leaders are lying to you, that the country's in a depression. While we don't have bread lines or people selling apples on the corner, we have virtual bread lines
That's right.
through your EBT card. It's a bread line effectively, and things are not getting better, and nobody is addressing the underlying problem. They're lying to you. When you saw the debates, yes, I would definitely agree that Romney certainly won the first and probably won the second and third, but there was never a true discussion of the issues and the issue of there's $350 billion worth of corporate welfare per year. They don't need it. And even if they do need it, if that's what they need to stay in business, they don't deserve to be in business.
Exactly.
All right. So let's cut to the chase. How are you going to get rid of that? And then how are you going to explain to people who paid into Social Security, my generation, I'm 55, how are you going to explain to me that I'm not getting it? I've already accepted I'm not going to get it, and I've tried to make other provisions, but I'm the exception. Most of you out there haven't done it. So that's why I got into the Financial Survival Network, because your financial survival hinges upon what you do now. And that really is the key to it all. And it doesn't matter so much if you're in debt or not in debt, if you're liquid or not liquid. If you take the right steps now and you have a financial survival plan in place, you will come out of this fine. But if you don't, you are going to be part of the lower class. I mean,
that's right.
You will be part of the poverty-stricken majority of this country when we finally emerge from the Greater Depression.
No doubt about it. I have a complete confidence in that. I might even, in what you just said there, I might even take it a little bit further and say that my conspiratorial side said this is by design. We've seen, as far as numbers would indicate, we've seen the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of this planet, the greatest transfer of fraudulent failure onto the backs of the people of the world. And now we're going to pretend it's something different just a few years down the line. And what I mean by that is, in 2007, 2008, when government could work together, ironically, they could come together on a solution for a financial crisis when it came to these financial institutions. They could, give our future away in order to save them. Well, here we sit, Kerry, just, a few short years later, one presidency later, and it's amazing to me that we sit here just this presidency later. We've doubled our national debt virtually. We've taken our unemployment rate to worse than the Depression levels. We've seen our housing markets, the store of wealth for the dwindling middle class, fall during the Great Depression. Yet here we sit on November 5th, Monday, talking with each other about the listening to the mainstream media and contemplating who's going to be the leader, as if you and I aren't contemplating this, but the dialogue in the country is which one of these guys are going to come through and save the day. Man, it's a con game from the word go, and if you're not set up for that, it's a freight train coming. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, there's too much debt. The debt will never be paid off. And
impossible.
Can't be. But we're getting to the point where the debt won't even be serviceable. And what did we do? What did we spend it on? We gave it to all these banks. I mean, all of these mortgage bailouts had nothing to do with the homeowner. It was all about bailing out the banks. That's what the Federal Reserve's mission statement is. That's why they were created in response to the panic, I think it was of 1893. Maybe it was 1903.
Engineered by the same bankers who were,
arguably, but even if it wasn't. I mean, once you start pulling the plug on banks in a system that's interrelated, even then it was interrelated, but more so now, they're totally one. Once you pull the plug on one bank, you potentially start a chain reaction, just like a nuclear explosion. Once you have critical mass and
it's going up,
the explosion, it's coming down. Yeah, there's nothing.
It's going up and then coming down.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Wait, hold on a minute. We're gonna take Carrie. We're gonna do our first break.
Sure.
Of the hour. We're gonna be back with Kerry Lutz of the Financial Survival Network, more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes, guys. Thank you.
How do we do?
You did awesome, buddy. Gary's doing that, and we're still live. We broadcast this on Justin TV as well. So right now, you and I are still live on Justin TV.
Oh, okay.
And then he'll also, Gary will upload this to YouTube on my YouTube channel.
Glasses off then.
Nah, keep them on. I got mine on. I got my.
Mine have this coating, and they make them look like it real thick and dark rings around my eyes. So
Let me see your website. They look good.
Yeah, well, that was a professional photographer, retouching or whatever he was doing. But, this thing is just, people don't understand how bad it is. But I'll tell you one thing, man. Having that food was a godsend to a lot of people. If you're on the North Shore of Long Island or the South Shore, you're in Staten Island, and you got a bucket of Prepare-Wise, man, I have 180 meals. Now, it just so happened that I moved down to Florida, and I was coming through New York after the Silver Summit, flying through New York on Saturday, so I avoided the damn storm. But man, I knew it was coming. I told my daughter to get the hell out of Manhattan, but of course, kids don't listen to their parents because they know everything. And, I knew this thing was going to be bad. When they look that bad on TV, there's almost no chance that you can avoid it. And also, look, it was on a full moon, all right? And that's real bad for the tides.
Yeah.
And I had this guy on, Arch Crawford, of Crawford Perspectives, and he had said he was thinking there could be a delay to the election or it could be canceled. And he didn't know what was going to happen, but he said Mercury was in retrograde. And I'm not into this stuff, okay? But one thing I know is when Mercury is in retrograde, mechanical stuff often doesn't work right, and you have disasters that take place. And the most amazing thing is I was coming back from Washington State, and the damn plane I was supposed to be on coming back from Denver to Newark broke. There was something wrong with it. Are you kidding me?
Hopefully when you're on the air.
Yeah, not when. Fortunately, it was broke in Omaha before it got to Denver. And then, all right, so they cancel it. I have to get on another flight. I get on that plane, and I get on there, and the damn air conditioner broke. So we had to wait before we could take off. Finally, we take off, and I figure I'm just going to miss my flight from Newark to Palm Beach. And the flight to Newark that I was going to be catching was an hour late because it was an international flight coming in from Panama, and it didn't clear customs fast enough. That's how screwed up everything was. So I made it, and the most amazing thing was that my luggage was waiting for me at Palm Beach.
So it beat you.
It got there. I couldn't believe it, man. It was amazing. I'm telling you, but I don't believe.
Well, and this program, my YouTube channel, my website, we kind of, we are into a lot of financial news, but we also get a lot of conspiratorial type information coming into us. And I guess it's only conspiracy if it's not true. But the talk of suspending the election has been, that was going on before Sandy came rolling up on the East Coast. I don't, obviously I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to, it would have to happen now. But what's that?
They can't stop it now.
No, they can't stop it. But you as well as I do that come tomorrow evening, man, the lawyers are. I'll get into it. We're gonna go live here in about another minute or in about another 30 seconds, and I'll get into it because it's almost like we've been conditioned over the last decade to watch government fail and sell the people on representative government being a loser idea and how we need this control economy.
Yep, because you can't markets.
Yeah.
Markets, God forbid.
Yeah. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. One day before Election Day, Selection Day, we have Kerry Lutz joining us. He is the founder. What do they say on RT all the time? Base founder. He's the base founder of Financial Survival Network, and we're really honored to have him on the program. If you're watching on Justin TV, you heard our conversation carry on during the break, and we'll get back into some of those details. If you're listening and not in the chat room, head to wideawakenews.com, click on the radio microphone, that'll take you into chat. Again, you can also watch us do this program live on Justin TV, and you can catch the re-upload later on YouTube as well. All right, Gary's running the show in seclusion in his bunker. Kerry, we were talking during the break about a little bit. I want to get into this because, like I said right at the start, Chris Atkin of Buy Emergency Foods, and that's one of the sister websites that you represent for them. You represent PrepareWise, but
Right.
they both sell. They are the only two outlets for legacy premium freeze-dried storable food, and that's how we met. We met through them, and I've been on your program a couple times, and now you've been on mine. But
Just let me say, I've gotten amazing listener feedback about that food, the service that they provide, the fact that there's no chemicals in anything. They said I can actually read the label and understand what's in the thing, and the stuff tastes good. Like somebody was telling me the fettuccine Alfredo was amazing. So, I just wanted
I got to send you the video. I did a 24-minute video where my brother and I live in Montana. I think you know that, but if you don't, you do now. I live in Montana, and my brother and I, we were implementing an emergency plan. The emergency plan was you were stranded, you couldn't get home from work with your vehicle. It's not a long story, but I won't get into all the details. But the plan was simple. Get from work location to the safe location. In this instance, in this scenario, it was home. But get there with avoiding as much human contact as possible because you don't want to lose what you have. And in this scenario, there was rioting and people that were very distressed, as in a crisis. Now, we shot this thing 2 weeks before Sandy. So, and everything that's playing out in New York right now these are the things we're talking about. You can't use your vehicle, obviously, if it's a flooded situation. People are really pissed off because they're waiting in 5-mile lines for gas, and they don't have enough food to the point where people are dumpster diving. But the reason I'm bringing this up is in this video, we brought some of the freeze-dried food from Legacy Premium, and we ate it. And it was 19 degrees, and I'm extremely happy that I had some hot food that I could use to warm me up. But it was actually very good and very nourishing because we needed it bad after that big hike.
Oh, I was just watching a YouTube clip of a guy who lives on the North Shore of Long Island, an area I'm very familiar with, not talking about low rent. And he said he saw a couple of groups of teenagers who were basically going to go looting and wilding through the houses. And he was showing him loading up his shotgun with, it was a weird thing. I don't know if it was a pellet gun or what, but he was going to shoot those guys without a second thought about it. And, this is why you need the survival plan, which the fact that you were actually enacting one and actually, doing some role playing there to get your act together, it's something that I really need to do with my family because we're scattered around the country. And if there's an emergency or collapse or whatever, I want them to be able to get back to wherever I am and be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time, in good condition, without having been victimized. And I'm not quite sure how you do it. It's a different...
I don't know either. That's a great question. My webmaster is my sister, and she's in Alabama. I have family in Idaho. I have family in Montana. I have family spread all across the country. And and in that we have talked about preparation. It's all pretty much the home location, especially out here in the West. If I'm in New York, I want to get out of there. If I'm in Denver, even, I want to get out of there and I want to head to somewhere more rural. Yeah. But I think having a plan, and all plans are great, but they usually go awry. I was in the military, and that's something you learn is or as what Mike Tyson said once: everybody's got a plan until they get hit, and so
the head.
That's right. So it's always been my contention from day one is you need to, first of all, you need to expose yourself to the truth, understand where we're at, and be mentally prepared for the unknown, for a crisis of inter-crisis situation. And, once you get to that level, that you're mentally prepared and you can look at news and strip out all the propaganda and understand what it really means and what it means to you and what it means you should do for your preparation, then everything else seems to kind of fall in line. But Very, very, without a doubt, very trying times are ahead, and we can talk a little bit more about that after the break. But I do want to pick your brain on what you
Well,
think people. Go ahead.
let me just put it this way. You're on the airplane, all right, and most people don't pay attention to the safety briefing. They don't think, they don't look.
Hold tight. Kerry, we'll take
Sure.
this break. I want to hear what happened on the airplane about the warning. We're going to be
Yeah.
back. Kerry Lutz of Financial Survival Network. More Wide Awake News Radio. Just a few minutes, guys. Hang tight. Fast and Furious. Sorry, I should tell you, so there'll be a 4-minute break here. Then we'll go back on, and then our last break, I believe, is at 41 minutes past the hour, and then the program will end at about 56 minutes after the hour.
Tell me if you can see this on the webcam.
I can see you holding a silver. It looks like a maple leaf.
Well,
No?
no, it's actually a medallion designed by Chris W.A.N of don't-tread-on.me, the Silver Shield, Sons of Liberty Academy,
Right.
and he created this thing, and it was somebody else's idea. They said, "Why don't you just put one of these together?" In the past 6 weeks, he sold 54,000
Wow.
1-ounce medallions at roughly $3, depending how many you buy, $2.50 to $4 over spot, which is totally competitive. And the thing is really cool. I mean, I carry around with me at any given time 2 ounces.
What's the reasoning behind creating it? I mean, what do you mean? He just
Well,
went to a. I mean, there's no. He's not trying to compete with
No.
with currency. I hope, because he'll get shut down hard.
No. What it is on the one side, this is actually a skeleton character. You can't see it. And this is the existing monetary system. And then on the back, there's like an eagle with arrows, and that's the future monetary system that's fair and based on silver. It's honest money. I'm kind of, synopsizing the whole thing, but that's pretty much what it is. So one side's the current monetary system, exploitative, dishonest, and then the coming monetary system, which is the people's money, silver. He's kind of into silver. I believe in gold and silver. I believe that there should be competing currencies. People get to choose their medium of exchange. If they want to change, if they are willing to accept puka shells or ammunition, then let them.
I'm on your site now. If you see me looking at the other screen, I'm looking at your site. Is that silver shield?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really a thing that he sold that many because, it's a real active website. He's got a lot of viewers and listeners, and, he does a phenomenal job putting these YouTubes together. So it's just a real tribute to him that he could sell this many. And I mean, the average order, Charlie, is like 25 coins.
Yeah.
You believe it? Yeah, it's like $800 or so. I think that is right.
Well, and definitely, the folks listening are, for the most part, we talk gold and silver. We have one of our sponsors comes on once a month, and we talk gold and silver. So they're certainly in tune into preparing, getting his. My advice has always been simple: mentally prepare for what's coming, physically prepare for what's coming. When you have what you feel is a substantial or sustainable amount of food for a period of time, as you and I have talked on your program, then if you have money left over and you want to protect it, these dollars are going to be they're going to be vanishing, I believe, in the near future.
For sure. I mean, to me, it's kind of go about it just from a different angle because I don't have the military.
Make no sound. Tiptoe across the floor. If he hears, he'll knock all day.
Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. We have Kerry Lutz of Financial Survival Network. Visit his website. A lot of great information up there. And he was showing us a coin if you're watching on JTV during the break. And I want to get into that a little bit. Kerry, these segments are running by quick, just like when I was on your program. I want to talk a little bit, if you can, if you'd like to, about the financial system that we have now, the people's money, as we were talking about during the break, and I'm trying to ask this question, but in a leading way. The IMF has recently come out with the Chicago plan, and those listening and not watching on JTV, I did air quotes there. The Chicago plan, and it really sounds like a winner, especially in the alternative community, the Ron Paul type community, the truth community, because in the Chicago plan they talk about eliminating fractional reserve banking, kind of. They eliminate fractional reserve banking by taking it away from private banks. Now, the hook in this Chicago plan, if you read deep enough into it, is at the end of the day, the central banks are still in control. And so we're led to believe that the central banks, the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank and so forth, are not private banks, which in fact they are privately owned by these too big to fail institutions that we've all come to know and love. They make up the ownership of these things. So it's basically selling a notion that, fractional reserve banking has created a quadrillion-dollar derivative nightmare. Fractional reserve banking has led the world to the financial brink, and we're going to give you a solution. We're going to get rid of this evil fractional reserve banking and make banks hold 100% of deposits type of thing, or far more substantial than 10%, lend out 90%. But again, it's once again a con game, because it's the same central bankers controlling everything. It's just that they're eliminating all competition. So all your regionals, all your credit unions that use fractional reserve banking will no longer be in existence, and all this power will be handed to a central banking cabal. And you said something interesting during the break, and I'm turning it over to you, is it gold, silver, bullets, peanut butter, wampum, pebbles. It really doesn't matter what you're going to use for your currency. It matters who is behind that currency. And I'm talking gold and silver for that matter. It doesn't matter if it's gold. It doesn't matter if it's diamonds. If it's private individuals, private banks with private motivations setting the value of that currency, you, the people, are going to eventually get screwed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, the whole thing revolves around this. The reason they're printing up all this money is because there's all this debt that they have to buy up from the government. So it's twofold. You need a system whereby the government is not allowed to run a deficit under any circumstances. It needs to be prohibited, in the most limited circumstances where an emergency is somehow declared, because every empire fails for this reason. Every empire fails because they print up and they debase the money, and the reason they debase the money is because they wind up buying stuff, buying votes, buying support, whatever it is. So unless you eliminate government debt first, it doesn't matter what your money is. So it has to be that, and then it has to be that the central banks cannot just print up units. You need honest money where we're pretty much 100% reserve requirement. Loans that banks make get made out of their capital, not out of deposits. I mean, going back to the good old days, remember the Westerns, and they'd rob the bank, and everybody would be real upset because they didn't have an FDIC. Sure. You were dependent upon the goodwill of that bank. That bank had to make prudent loans, and you gave them your money for safekeeping because they had a big safe that you couldn't afford, and they could store it. And now we're in a system where basically the bank is a whale at the international casino, and they're taking the money that you put in there plus all the money that they can borrow that the government will give them, which seems to be unlimited, and they're putting it on red or black, odd or even, high, low, whatever it is, and they're thinking that they're going to beat the odds, and they're not. So you got to get rid of government debt first, and then restructuring the monetary system so that it can't be expanded willy-nilly. This concept of an elastic money supply, which I was taught in economics, was a good thing, because when you needed more money, it was available, and when you didn't need money, then the system would contract, is a lot of garbage, because the system only expands It only inflates and it only debases. There's three things in life, Charlie, that are certain: death, taxes, and inflation. All right? Those three things you can pretty much count on. Anything else may or may not happen. But inflation, as long as man exists and tries to get something for nothing out of the system, inflation will exist.
Yeah, and not only that, when you have, when this little tiny document right here that's barely, I can carry it in my back pocket any time, when it prescribes that, that government, the people, and see, government's turned into this evil term now, but when the people, if we follow the Constitution, the people issue the money and they determine the value of it. And that's not what we have either. So every single dollar that we get to borrow into existence, it's coming at a price tag. And I alluded to the beginning of the program. If you're an 18-year-old kid or younger, you're 218 grand in the hole, before you even put on your high school graduation gown. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the entire system, red, blue, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, even though these are ideologies that are, I believe, are real, but the system that we have now plays to those emotions of ideology, and it gets us into one camp or another, but they're all about the exact same thing, which is placating to a certain bloc and hoping they can stay in power. But at the end of the day, when the cameras are off and the election season's over, everything is done to benefit financial special interest, and this is where we end up. And it sure seems, Kerry, looking at it, looking at what's going on in Europe right now, and trust, guys, listen, trust me, as soon as these elections are over, Europe's right back in the spotlight once again, followed very, very shortly by the Super Congress failure, which was to come up with a way to get our debt loads lessened in a bipartisan way. But anyway, this is all going to come back to haunt us here very, very soon. And that's why I think we're going to be looking at this massive austerity coming here. What are you doing? What are you recommending to people to prepare for that on the financial side of things?
Well, look, I mean, gold and silver, you don't have to have a lot necessarily. You just need to have enough, roughly 15% of your portfolio. But even if you're broke, you can certainly afford a couple ounces a week, 1 ounce a week, half an ounce a week. Just start buying it. Get on a disciplined program. Do that. Buy food. Guns, that's a personal decision. But
crazy not to.
if I was on Long Island right now, if I was in Staten Island, they're holding off these looters with bows and arrows.
Yeah.
Bows and arrows, for crying out loud.
The largest city in the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the world, the richest nation in the world. We've all been told this by both teams. Yeah. The largest city in the country has a Category 1, although massive storm, Category 1 hurricane come through. They're still in New Jersey, right there. They're still a week without power, eating out of dumpsters, sitting in line for fuel. And you told us a story during the break. A guy's got a shotgun because their looters are collaborating and they're going to hit the streets.
Yeah, and I talked about this with Andy Hoffman at Miles Franklin today. This is a dress rehearsal. Use this as a means of preparing yourself. I mean, you and I, we say it so often, get the damn food. Do whatever you have to, but you got to have food. You got to have water.
It means to defend it. I agree with that 100%. Kerry Lutz, we're going to be right back with him of FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and more Wide Awake News Radio. We'll be right back.
That bow and arrow, for crying out loud.
Bow and arrow? Is that a real story? I didn't even see that one.
That's true. That is absolutely true. And just like the dumpster diving. But let me tell you something, Charlie. They come from my house, they're not going to be worrying about bows and arrows. They're going to be worrying about steel-jacketed, full metal jacket and 230 whizzing by their ears. It's not something I want ever. I pray that it never happens.
Dress rehearsal was a perfect place to end it, though, because you're right. It's a perspective thing, right? If your perspective is you're 55, I'm 43. If your perspective is you've grown up in the freest nation in the world, blah, 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 we're the best at everything, we do it all in the name of liberty and freedom and spreading democracy around the world. and you've been immersed in that culture your whole life, as most of us, our generation, has. You think it can't happen here, but I think more and more people are waking up and realizing that we are just one big crisis event away from exactly that happening. And
Sure.
these weather things, Katrina, Sandy, or some other natural disaster, you're right. These are great dress rehearsals because man can do a lot more damage overnight over the planet than something like Sandy or Katrina.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
usually localized. But hey,
yeah,
one thing you always got to remember, Charlie, regardless how screwed up things are, you and I have been blessed. Regardless how they were screwing us the whole time, the banksters, we got to live a standard of living unimagined by humanity. We got to do things. We ate like no other civilization, whether you like McDonald's, whatever the hell you like to eat, you
right.
could do it. And we got to have a hell of a time. The thing that I feel bad about is I don't think my kids are going to get to have that experience that you and I have had. Man, I figure what I got 20 years left or whatever I got left, and I've put something aside and I've mentally prepared for this. So I'm probably better off, and you're probably better off than just about everybody out there. 9 out of 10 people, 95 out of 100 who are just in complete denial. But when you see the images on TV where there's no power and you got to fend for yourself, that should be a wake up call to everybody. As if Katrina wasn't. I mean, you and I, we talk about getting food and we say, look at those people in Katrina. And I've been saying this like nonstop, not because I'm caring about commissions or anything else. I really don't. I mean, yes, we all have to keep the lights on. We're in business, but I'm doing this because I want you out there to survive and thrive, and you can do it if you just have a plan. And like I was saying, you get onto that airplane and it's never going to crash. The odds are 100 million to 1 against it at this point. Haven't had an airplane crash in 12 years, commercial flight in the U.S. Nonetheless, the people who know where the exits are and know how to get.
Hang it. Sorry. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Kerry Lutz is our guest, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said during the break if you weren't watching on Justin TV. He's talking about the necessity for being prepared, and we've all, regardless of what stage you are waking up, the fact is, part of the reason that most of the people that we know think it can't happen here is because we have lived in a nation that has had so much abundance. Generations have had anything and everything was available at a reasonable price. But to think that it can't go the other way is naive at this point. This is all coming to a point where we're going to get to pay dramatically. And Carrie said something during the break that I agree with, which is him and I, we had the benefit of this. You if you're in our 40 plus age group, we all had the benefit of this. A relatively good education at a reasonable price. Food was cheap. Housing, before 2000 anyway, and it went ballistic, was affordable. We had good health care, good jobs, that kind of thing. And now we're seeing what it's going to be like to live on the other side of this planet. At least I believe that's where we're eventually going to head. But Carrie, you were talking about, climbing onto an airplane knowing that it's just because there's 100 million to 1 chance, and that's what you're starting to explain, the necessity for preparation. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so you look at where the exits are, and you think in your mind, or for that matter, when I go to a nightclub, when I go to a restaurant, I look at fire exits, when I go to a movie theater. Because look, it's like I might not wind up at the exit where I planned to wind up at, where my mental plan was going to take me. But because I know the layout, I might not have to think about it. I might just unconsciously head for the proper exit. But if I never thought about it, all of a sudden everything hits the fan, and then I'm left to think, well, where are those exits at? How do I get to them? And then I got a real problem because I might start panicking because I haven't thought about it. So what a plan does, even though it can't be followed, even though, like you said, the greatest battle plan after 30 seconds of war is no more.
Right.
Even though all that's true, I'm way further ahead because I had a plan and I thought these things through. And if you thought them through and you had a financial survival plan, a family survival plan, a physical survival plan, and a community survival plan, you'll be that much further ahead because you'll have a list of things to do. Just like when the airplane starts going down, the pilots don't panic. They have a checklist and they go through their checklist, and that checklist will maximize their odds of survival no matter what the emergency on that airplane might be. And that's what every one of you out there needs to have. I can't emphasize it enough. It's crucial.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, as far as I'm concerned, I've said it for years. Mentally preparing is number one, because without that, then nothing else will fall into place. But and after that, after you understand where we're at, where we're going, you got to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Whatever the time you think you need to prepare, you do that. And then if you have something left over and you're concerned about fractional reserve, fiat, phony debt bomb currency that is starting to unravel as we speak, get out of that, get into something that will be useful for you in the future. Carrie, I want to finish up. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left here. And listen, guys, I know we had some callers, and I apologize. I should have announced at the top. I wanted to not take callers tonight. I just wanted to get into first time Carrie's on the program. I wanted to get in here and just have a conversation with him. So I apologize for that, for not making that announcement, and for the guys who held. All right, here's what I see playing out, and I want to get your take on this. You're in the East Coast. I'm out here in the West. Since George W. Bush, right? Since he ran against Kerry, and even back to that, let's go back to Al Gore, where a lot of people thought that election was rigged. We had a popular vote versus an electoral college vote. Bush ended up, with the help of Supreme Court, becoming the president 8 years later. 4 years later, more controversy with Kerry, and then we are set up since then to see government fail on every front. Right? We've seen it fail when it comes to political, the ability for the two sides to come together. Political upheaval is the word I was looking for. We've seen two sides unable to come up with a solution of any kind that's beneficial to people. Definitely beneficial to continuing the bailouts and things like that for financial interest. But for the people, it's shown to be a complete failure over the last decade. We've seen our geopolitical failure, with weapons of mass destruction. Now the latest one is Benghazi. This is failing in our face. Afghanistan, we're still there after over a decade. These reasons that we're given to go into these wars, we're finding out that are being nothing but hype and propaganda, and we're not there for the reasons it's sold. The trend is this, at least the message that is being sent, I believe, is this: representative government no longer works. Right? The next last greatest crisis that we could be facing is this fiscal cliff. Now, what brought us the fiscal cliff? The Democrats and the Republicans couldn't come together, so they created a super committee, 12 people plus a president. These people couldn't come together with the solution, so they put in this draconian triggers to kick in on January 1, 2013. The reason I say that, when I look back at recent history, last decade, we're being taught that representative government doesn't work. You factor in at the end of this something like the IMF's Chicago plan. It's always about integrating power into fewer and fewer hands, because the message is simple: when we leave it to you, you screw it up. And so my fear is this: we're gonna get past this election, we're going to trip this trigger in early 2013, and the people that are mentally prepared and physically prepared, they're going to fare better. But as a nation, as a planet for that matter, the West at least is going to see a dramatic standard of living decrease, and it's going to be the realization that we are truly in a depression is going to be very much evident to everybody involved. Your thoughts?
Yeah, there's going to be a wake-up call. I mean, look, the government's failure always becomes an excuse for more government. All right. You just keep going back and back through history, and I'm always reminded by that quote from Rahm Emanuel, who was Obama's chief of staff: "Never let a good crisis
Yeah.
go to waste." It always, 9/11 became the basis of the Patriot Act, and I remember one thing: there was a bill pending in the late '90s called "Know Your Customer," which was supposedly going to stop money laundering, which every bank had to literally crawl up your butt with a microscope and figure out who you were, your business. They had to visit your premises. Disgusting, intrusive, and you know it got beaten down by popular acclaim. And then right after 9/11, guess what? Know Your Customer became a reality.
Yep.
And the fact is that the war on drugs, the war on terror, it's all a war of the government on the citizens.
That's right.
That's what
And
it
that's a
comes
great
down to.
that's a great to bring the Rahm Emanuel, don't let any good crisis go to waste. I'm paraphrasing here, is a great example, because we can take that statement and to see where we're going. We can see where we're going, because if we look at Europe, right? If we look at Europe as a whole, the continent of Europe, the largest economy in the world, if we combine it all, Wolfgang Schäuble, the country, the most powerful country in Europe, Germany, financially, Wolfgang Schäuble, the finance minister, whispered in Angela Merkel's ears just a few years back, "We can't let this crisis go to waste. We have to use this to strengthen the European Financial Union. You don't strengthen the European Financial Union without getting rid of representative government throughout Europe." And what have we seen since then? We've seen
Maastricht
technocrats
Treaty.
be installed. What's that?
Yeah, the Maastricht Treaty, which is
Yeah.
all about, yeah, but they never merged the fiscal units, and it's a failure. But they use the failure as a reason for more government.
That's right.
Medicare is failing, therefore we need Obamacare.
That's right.
Right? I mean, that's what it's all about here, Charlie.
It is all about, and you're right. Inside of Europe, they let the region use a common currency, knowing full well that the South was going to drag down the North, knowing full well that it was going to lead to onerous inflation or onerous debt, sovereign debt being heaped onto the nations. And when it all blew up, their solution is, well, we'll give Brussels the power. You can still have your cute little representative government, but when it comes to financial matters, we'll give all the power to Brussels.
Yeah, and then
consolidate.
and one world currency, which is really what that whole IMF thing is about. You can't trust the central banks. You can't trust fractional reserve banking. So we'll just have the IMF, and we'll print the money, and you guys will just take it. And if you don't like it, it's too bad. And once that happens, man, our freedoms, a few are left, are gone around the world. And this is what one world government, one world currency means. It'll never work. I don't believe they're going to be able to implement it. If they manage to, it's just going to be pure hell and upheaval for a decade.
Agree with you.
It'll be cast off because it can't work, because no monetary system ever works, even when it's backed by gold and silver, because the politicians always lie, they always steal, they always go into debt, and then they debase, and then the currency becomes worthless. And we go to Rome, we go to Greece, we go to the Byzantine Empire. Man, there's 58 hyperinflations that we know about. And, it all ends the same way. So it would just be so much better if we had real leaders who could, even though I don't like FDR, and I think he was a liar and did a lot of bad things, but he did those fireside chats, and he said, look, here's what's going on. Things are really bad. We'll just print up a lot of money and try to solve this problem. We're a little more sophisticated, and we know that won't work. They're doing the same thing, but we never have a leader say, look, we're spending too much money. We have to make changes. Everybody has to chip in, which means get rid of the corporate welfare, get rid of the private welfare, put government back to its original function, which is defending rights, defending us from external enemies and internal foes, and you guys will have to work on your own.
Amen. Kerry Lutz, the Financial Survival Network, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Please check it out. You can subscribe to his newsletter as well as his podcast. Kerry, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll get you on again next month if that's cool with you.
All right, and we'll definitely have you on again, Charlie. Man, I can't thank you enough for speaking, and I love the video concept, and you're doing great work, man.
Thanks,
Really,
man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, guys. And with all this being said, look, you see what's happening in New York right now. You've seen disaster, man-made and natural, over the years. Please take it upon yourself to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Visit the guys who support this alternative media channel, as well as Kerry Lutz's buyemergencyfoods.com or preparewise.com. They support us, so let's support them. Kerry Lutz, thank you very much, guys. Enjoy Jeff Rins. He's coming up next. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace. Kerry, hold on a sec. I want to get.
Hey there. My name is Frank Bates.
Okay. I wanted to get your prediction on tomorrow.
Oh, definitely Romney. I'm thinking it could be as high as 10 points.
Okay, let's make a 1 ounce silver bet then. I'm glad you said that.
All right.
You and I are going to wager an ounce of silver.
All right.
This is the breakdown. I think we're going to see Obama take it. So I'll just say Obama. You're taking Romney. Whatever. There's the bet. But I think we're going to see another split. I think we're going to see Obama take the Electoral College, and we're going to see Romney take the popular vote.
Hey, man, I don't know. We will see. I've felt for a long time the election's been over, and people have just been looking for reasons to vote for Romney rather than just vote against Obama. I think he gave them to him in the debates, and I feel like it's been over for months, but nobody bothered to tell us about it.